Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like we have enough seats for everybody, so we will get our program underway. I'm Bud Namick. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the 2017 Inland Northwest Sports Hall of Fame induction. And again, it's a great problem to have with so many people showing up and having to add some extra seats over what we had RSVP'd. So it's fantastic to see you all here today. And I just want to make sure that you are aware this is the Inland Northwest Sports Hall of Fame induction, because we do have a few extra people here. And I know Don Munson came up to me. He thought this was Garth Brooks. Don, that's a month away. But I'm told if you buy John Blanchett a beer afterwards, he'll sing his rendition of Friends in Low Places. So you can look forward to that afterwards. It's great to have you here as we get a chance to honor some folks who have been fantastic in the world of sports in the Inland Northwest. And at first, I'd like to just introduce our distinguished guest. We'll get a chance to hear from them later. Scroll of Honor inductees for the Vic B. Linden and Sons Sign Advertising Scroll of Honor, Sister Madonna Buter and Jay Rydell. Our Hall of Fame inductees this afternoon, Steve Gleason, Reuben Mays, Allie Neiman, Pam Parks. It's the reason why we need more chairs. Dennis Patchen, and Denny Spurlock. For those of you who have been with us at these inductions in the past, you may remember it was on induction day in 1991, and it was this time of year. We always hold this event mid-October. It was on this day in 1991 when we inducted a class at the Ridpath in downtown Spokane. The winds kicked up like they did today, and firestorms started. And we all blamed that on Dick Wright being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Now, today's win maybe is because Dennis Patchen's going into the Hall, but nothing bad is going to happen, so everything's going to be good. We have a number of past inductees who are here with us today, Hall of Fame members, and I'd love it if they would stand and be recognized, and I will mention them, all that RSVP'd, so that we know that you're here. Please all stand. Bobby Brett, Hugh Campbell, Paul Danello, Virginia Danke, Clayton Dunn, Connie Guthrie, Jack Harvey, Tom Hodges, Jeff Jordan, Don Munson, Jim Murphy, John Owen, Jim Price, Maury Ray, John Roskelley, Marcia Sainholtz, Cash Stone, Tracy Walters, Ray Washburn, Mike Vlahovic. And if I missed anyone that we had on the RSVP list, my apologies, but please stand. John Heimbigner is here. And Irene Matlock. Thank you very much. One of the things that happens because we have our induction every 2 years, there are some Hall of Famers who pass away in the interim between our events, and I'd like to direct your attention to the video screen to recognize those folks who are no longer with us. Each of you as you came in should have received a program and also a brochure that has all of our Hall of Fame inductees And there's enough information in there and also on the Spokane Sports Commission website so you can learn about the Inland Northwest Sports Hall of Fame. Just briefly, the Hall of Fame came into existence in 1960. The very first class was inducted in 1963, and we hold inductions every 2 years. We have a committee of folks who've been around the sports scene in Spokane for quite some time, and it truly is a grueling task to go through all of the lists that we have of the many people who are qualified to be considered to be in the Hall of Fame and on the Scroll of Honor. And it is an extremely difficult task for our group as we meet numerous times to have discussions and narrow that process down and do a voting process that ends up with the honorees that happen here today. And the best part about this is the opportunity for all of you to be a part of that process by sending letters, phone calls, emails about people that you believe should be in the Hall of Fame who are not. And we love to see those, and it adds to discussion at our meetings. And there's information in the program and certainly on the Sports Commission website for you to be able to make those nominations and bring those people to our attention, and we greatly, greatly appreciate that. I'd like to introduce Eric Sawyer, the President and CEO of Spokane Sports Commission, to say a few words. The Sports Commission oversees the Inland Northwest Sports Hall of Fame. Eric Sawyer.
Well, thank you on behalf of the Sports Commission, our Board of Directors, and certainly the greatest staff on the planet. I really appreciate you taking the time to come here and sharing this experience with us and recognizing some pretty special people. I'm very lucky I get to work in this role and sit back and watch what happens in sports in our community and honor those who have the kind of achievement that we recognize here. But probably what you don't know a little bit about the Sports Commission is beyond putting on a great Hall of Fame and administering this. So we also have a Youth Awards in the spring, and I would encourage many of you, if you enjoy this, you'll really enjoy honoring the youth that we'll do in the spring. We also have an impact in this community. Typically in a year, we'll do somewhere around $40 million of economic influence by attracting tournaments and events into our region. We have a great team that goes out and travels the country and brings those events in. And if you haven't gotten your tickets for the NCAA Women's Regionals next March, you better hurry. I'm just telling you. In addition, we also have a tremendous town and a tremendous community and a tremendous sports story, and it starts right here. So please join us in thanking the sponsors behind this. And there's a group that we can't do what we do if they didn't sponsor the Sports Commission. They are the City of Spokane, Spokane County, the City of Spokane Valley, and the Public Facilities District and the Tourism Promotion Area. These are public agencies that believe in our vision and believe what we do, and let's take a minute and recognize them also. So many thanks.
Eric, thank you. At this time, I'd like Bill Maxey to come forward. Bill is the board chair of the Spokane Sports Commission and also a member of our selection committee. Bill Maxey.
They told me to try to moonwalk, but I can't do it. I'm going to echo some of Eric's comments. Thanks, Bud, for the introduction. On behalf of the Spokane Sports Commission, Eric is the CEO and President, the Board of Directors, the Hall of Fame Selection Committee, of which I'm on, and our wonderful staff, as Eric has pointed out to you already. They put together just a great program for you this afternoon. I want to welcome you from my heart, and I would like to introduce, or at least ask, the Spokane Sports Commission board members to stand if they would and be recognized, and save your applause for the end. We've got a couple groups that I want to stand, so if the Spokane Sports Commission board would please rise, be recognized. Thank you very much. If there are any members of the Hall of Fame Selection Committee, would you please rise and be recognized? They're all volunteers and they do a wonderful job. It's a very difficult job, but it's a job that this Inland Northwest sports community needs to be done. I would also ask our Sports Commission staff, who is responsible for this tremendous program and promotion today in honor of our inductees. Would you please stand if you were out there to be recognized? Staff, they do a tremendous job in all of our events, and this one in particular, as you will see and as you've experienced in the past. Again, I want to welcome all of you in attendance here today, the prior and past inductees, the present inductees, and I'm sure somewhere out in this crowd there's going to be some future inductees, the friends and families who have traveled some distances to be here. Again, as Eric has mentioned, all of the wonderful sponsors who, without their aid and assistance, programs such as this would not be as great as it is. All whose presence here today reflect the true affection in our Inland Northwest sports community for sports and in our community at large. I've been told, depending upon who you talk to, that this is our 27th or 28th induction ceremony for the Inland Northwest Sports Hall of Fame over a period of 55 years. That's quite impressive. So if I talk to John, he tells me 27 years. If I talk to Bud, he's saying 28. But whatever it is, that's a tremendous accomplishment. So again, thank you. I want to say congratulations to all of our inductees in the past and all of our inductees, of course, in the future, and of all of our inductees here today. It's a great honor. I want to thank them for all of the things that, if I can use that expression, all of the things that they've done on the field and for all of the things that they've done off of the field. It's just a tremendous honor. We've got a great program for you this afternoon, hosted by the comparable Bud Namick. And he's done a tremendous job in the past, and he continues to do that today. So sit back, relax, enjoy, listen, observe, learn about our great sports persona, and celebrate all who are being honored here today. I have one more function before I pass the mic back to Bud, and that is I'm very honored and pleasured to make a special presentation to John Heimbigner, who sits at the end of the row there. John is our longtime chair of the Hall of Fame Selection Committee. John is a past board member of the Spokane Sports Commission and a previous inductee to our Hall of Fame. As a contributor, John has decided to let youth have its day on our committee and let youth be served, and has decided to step aside as our chair. Dennis Patchen will be taking over in that capacity. John will continue to serve on the committee, and I'm sure he will be a mentor to all of us who continue to be on that committee. I want to say that John has served as the chair of the committee for in excess of 30 years. Now think about that, 30 years as the chair of any committee, but let alone this committee. We don't know how old John is, so we're not quite sure about this figure that I'm citing you, but it's in excess of 30 years, and probably somewhere in the range of 31 years, and he's served on the committee in other capacities aside from his time as the chair. He's been instrumental in identifying and educating the community on the lists of past, present, and future persons for consideration, selection, and induction. He's kept extensive and meticulous records of the matters of the committee. He's helped formulate and maintain and tweak the process of selection. He's helped establish and maintain the great cubicles and displays that we have here in the arena that honor our inductees, much more than I would have time to talk about. But in appreciation and recognition of John's efforts and the time that he has committed to the Sports Commission and to the Hall of Fame Committee, the Sports Commission and the Hall of Fame wish to present John with a beautiful plaque. John, would you come on up? John and I continue to play senior basketball, and it's a very humbling thing to watch. I told John that, if there was another Hall of Fame that we might be eligible for, it might be America's Funniest Videos. But John, would you come forward? And accept this plaque. I want a grateful recognition of 31 years of service as Inland Northwest Sports Hall of Fame Committee Chair. Your excellent performance and sincere commitment has made a lasting impact on our region and our community. Thank you, John. Thank you. Bud, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Here's your pen if you need it. Bill, thank you very much, and John, thank you for your service, and you're not done yet, so we're going to keep you working. We will talk a moment about sponsors, but we have a presenting sponsor of the Hall of Fame, and it's an organization in Spokane that we're all very well aware of. Hopefully we all shop there. They are so community-minded, and we're great to have them in our community, Rosars Supermarkets. And representing Rosars today to say a few words is Ken Grove, Facilities Manager for Rosars Supermarkets. Ken?
Thanks, Bud. It's an honor and a privilege to be a part of the Rosars organization and the Sports Commission. As you all know, this room is full to capacity, and I've never seen it this way. I've probably been here 8 times. Never seen it like this. So it's great to have an awesome following, and we're very humbled to be a part of the crowd. Just a little note for the Heimbegner family. I have an idea how old John is because his dad was my teacher in high school. And John's wife, Karen, I was one of her first students. So you can ask me later, I'll give you an idea how old he might be. So anyway, one item and I'll get off the stage. We have a lot of great people here today. Think about sports, how it's impacted your life. And when everybody's done today, you'll go home. When you see that neighbor kid that's not playing sports, he's playing on his phone, watching videos, encourage him to do something. Sports is a great option, and we know what it does to make people incredible at the end of the day. Thank you.
Ken, again, thank you, and thank you to Rosars. We also would like to recognize the Spokane Sports Commission sponsorship partners throughout the year, Avista Corporation, the Davenport Autograph Collection, Eastern Washington University, Mullen, Cronin, Casey, and Blair, and Spokane Teachers Credit Union. We thank them and all the sponsors who are in your program and also on the ribbon board around the arena. Thank you. All right, now it's time for the opportunity to honor our inductees. And we begin this afternoon with the Scroll of Honor. And our first inductee, Sister Madonna Buter, known as the Iron Nun. Sister Madonna Buter began her triathlon career at an age when many of us are starting to think seriously about retirement. 30 years later, she's still going strong. Sister Madonna Buter's running career started at the age of 47 with her very first Bloomsday. But just running kind of got boring, so about 5 years later, she tackled that first triathlon. She's now a member of the USA Triathlon Hall of Fame. And for the past 5 years, she's been the oldest competitor to complete each and every triathlon that she enters into. Pretty amazing. Well, it turns out Sister Madonna is human after all. She once traveled to a race in Nebraska and forgot her running shoes. No problem. One of the volunteers on race day had the same shoe size and offered Sister Madonna her shoes. She took them, won the event, handed the shoes back. That volunteer has a very cherished memento now. And a couple of years ago, Sister Madonna Buter helped a neighbor when their home caught on fire. She's also chronicled her book in a life titled The Grace to Race. It's my pleasure to present to you Inland Northwest Sports Hall of Fame Scroll of Honor member, Sister Madonna Buter.
Thank you very much. I did not expect this, of course, and when things take me by surprise, I really am surprised. But you know, first of all, I really have to accuse God of having a divine sense of humor. Furthermore, I think he loves to work in contradictions. And this is how, one of the reasons, he proves he's a supreme being. Now, who would have imagined that a nun in her 40s, dressed in a long habit, would, and semi-cloistered at that, become a world trotter wearing spandex? But that's God's way of doing things. And when you realize that you have a gift, you are obligated to use it for the greater honor and glory of your Creator. Otherwise, it's an insult to your donor. So this is what got me through some hard decision making. It was not easy to get permission to do the Boston Marathon. And I thought, well, I think that instead of going to my community, I really should go to the bishop and see how he feels about it, because the media will probably attack him, knowing nothing about the order I'm living in with. So I go, and he's sitting there leaning back in his chair. Yes, sister, what can I do for you? And I said, well, I was really thinking, considering of doing the Boston Marathon for a very worthy cause, bigger than myself. And he relaxed, and his lips turned up, and he said, well, sister, I wish some of my priests would do that. So I took that as confirmation that it would be okay to go ahead and do this, which was a very interesting experience because I had to qualify in order to get to Boston. And the nearest marathon at that point was in Coeur d'Alene, our neighbor. And the qualifying time was very stringent then. For 40 and older women, you had to do it in 3 hours, within 3 hours and 30 minutes. Well, I was already 12 years beyond 40 then, so I wasn't sure, but you know, this is God's plan. I finished it with 42 seconds to spare. And I thought, well, still I'm a little hesitant because I don't want to bring scandal into this world. There's enough going on as it is. So I got back from the Boston Marathon and went home to visit my parents in St. Louis and saw this article on the front page of the St. Louis Globe-Democrat with this first ever senior Olympic being held. And it was a running scene, and who in the world was in the front line, dressed in her white habit, with her skirts uplifted, poised, ready to go, and it displayed more than just her ankle. I thought, no, I don't think this is the way to represent the religious life. I'd much rather get lost in the crowd. Therefore, the lycra forever after, I'm lost in the crowd. But it doesn't really happen that way either. Somehow you get found, and it's okay because you have to be convinced that what you are doing is the purpose for which you were made. And we're all made as God's masterpiece. I love to tell those I visit in jail every week that you're not only a child of God, you are a masterpiece of His creation, which means there'll never be another you. So, be the best you that you can. And I'm still working at trying to be the best you I can at age 87. And I really do want to say that I have mixed emotions about this, because not only was I surprised, almost alarmed, when Stacy Ward called me to tell me that I had been selected for this honor, and very humbled knowing how many, many worthwhile others there are out there, possibly right in the crowd. But I want to say from the bottom of my heart, to whomever you were who helped to select me, I'm filled with gratitude and appreciation for what you have done and for who you are. And let me tell you, it's not what you wear that counts, but who you are. God bless you.
Congratulations, Sister Madonna Buter. Our next person to add to the Vic B. Linden and Sons Signs Scroll of Honor is Jay Rydell. When you think of wrestling in Spokane, there are a few prominent names that come to mind. Cash Stone, Ken Pello, the Owen brothers, and a man certainly on that list is the man we're honoring today, being added to the Inland Northwest Sports Hall of Fame Scroll of Honor, Jay Rydell. Jay's been an educator his entire life, 29 years, 26 of those at Central Valley High School. Wrestling has always been a focal point for the former coach and athletic director. How about a 151-42 record in dual meets as the head wrestling coach at Central Valley? Also an honored athletic director. He demanded a lot from his athletes, but he gave back by being a father figure, a role model, and sometimes even a taxi driver if one of his wrestlers didn't have a ride to practice or a match. Coach Rydell pushed his athletes every day to become a better wrestler, but more importantly, he pushed them to become a better person. And he would never give up on you as you battled your way through matches and life's adventures. It's my pleasure to present to you Inland Northwest Sports Hall of Fame Scroll of Honor member, Jay Rydell.
Oh boy. This is a very humbling experience to be nominated for this award and to join this group of outstanding people. I've walked these halls many times with State B basketball, hockey games, and to join this group is truly an honor. I'd like to thank the Inland Northwest Sports Hall of Fame Board and the Sports Commission for nominating me for this award. And I'm here today probably due to the help and counseling, guidance of a lot of people. And there's a lot of them out there, coaches that I've had in the past. And first off, my high school coaches really taught, coached, directed me along the way. And in that process, I was a little bit of a challenge in high school, to say the least, and made the dean's list several times. The only problem was that was the wrong dean's list to make. And then on from high school, the college coaches kind of focused and coached me to go into the teaching profession and coaching. And really, I'll tell you, the college coaches really helped. And of course, their main emphasis was graduate and then come back and pay tribute to all of those coaches that helped you and get involved. My dad said that when I first started teaching and coaching, he said, you want to be successful, surround yourself with the best qualified people. And as a coach, I tried to do that. I had one assistant that stuck with me through thick and thin all those years, Bruce Wendelberg, and he really, I'll tell you, he had my back a lot of times, and we went through a lot of trials and tribulations. As an AD, I use that same philosophy, and I notice a lot of those guys. Rick Sloan, my wife says don't tell any stories, so we can't get too deeply into that, but Rick Sloan, Paul Dinello, J.O., John Owen, these are all coaches that worked at CV and did an outstanding job, and it really dedicated themselves to the profession, and Rick is still going strong, so, and J.O. also. My family, for their support, my son Kyle, his wife Laura, Caleb and Aaliyah, and along with my daughter Tanya that came down from San Francisco, or over from San Francisco. And it's great to have you people here to support me. And I know that you spent a lot of time in the gymnasium through those years when we were coaching and AD, and it was just amazing, the support. And I saved the best for last. That's my wife, Sandy. For 50 years, she stuck by me. So that's, if anybody needs an award, I think probably that one. And I also learned that when your wife's from Butte, Montana, for a good, happy marriage, you learn two great words: yes, dear. And she's been with me all that time, and it's a long, hard bleacher path that she's taken with all the kids. And I just want to really thank you for this award. And I always had a little saying on my bulletin board: it doesn't matter who gets credit for a job well done, as long as the job gets done. Thank you.
Congratulations. You did a great job. Thank you. Jay, congratulations. It's time now to meet our inductees to the Inland Northwest Sports Hall of Fame. And I'll direct your attention to the video screen behind me. Our first inductee today, Steve Gleason.
Every community, it seems, has a list of athletes that starred for their hometown high schools. The list of those whose talents translate to the next level is much more exclusive. And the air becomes extremely rare for those who reach the pinnacle and can forever be called pros. But to find the athlete whose impact transcends it all can be once in a lifetime. In the Inland Northwest, Steve Gleason's life, leadership, and lasting impact fits that bill beautifully.
He's in a position to be a hero. And he's a hero today because what life threw his way and how he's responded to it. The way he played football here at Gonzaga Prep is the same way he lives life today. I mean, he is in the moment and he is engaged.
Gleason's days at Gonzaga Prep laid the foundation for his future. He set the GSL home run record for the baseball team. He was twice the league's defensive MVP for the football team. And it was here that it was first clear his talents were matched by rare tenacity.
So when he was a junior, we played in the state semifinals when we lost. And so it was late in November. We came back here to prep. It was dark out. I see this silhouette of a guy standing down here where we would practice. And I'm thinking, God, who is that? Here comes Gleason walking up, all still suited up, got his helmet on. He had just such a way about him.
With Harrington in trouble, he is sacked. Steve Gleason.
His competitive spirit was a perfect fit for Pullman, and Gleason continued his career with the Cougs.
He just played hard, he practiced hard. I mean, I remember one of the first hits I saw that he laid out a guy on a kickoff, and it was just like...
Trying to bring it upfield. Oh, he's hammered. Oh, my.
No regard for his body at all. You had to play like him, or try to in a sense, or else it was just like, you know, what are you doing out there? So.
He played for the 1997 Rose Bowl team. In his senior season, he earned all Pac-10 honors as a linebacker, all while continuing with baseball too, starting 4 seasons for Wazoo's outfield. His uncanny leadership skills constantly on display.
You know, it's tough to describe what it is, but he had it. So he could tell when things weren't going well at practice, and he was going to get people up, and he just had a way. I bet coaches, now looking back, being a high school coach, I bet coaches could gauge things based on Steve's practice, like in terms of where's the team at today.
His next stop was the NFL, when he hooked on with the New Orleans Saints, a free agent signing in the fall of 2000.
So I was coaching at Gonzaga Prep at the time. He comes back to Spokane, helping us coach. Gets the call from New Orleans, goes down there, he's on the practice squad. It's something ridiculous, like 3 days someone gets hurt and he's playing on Monday Night Football. You know, it was literally, I think within a week, he was coaching with us at Gonzaga Prep and then playing on special teams on Monday Night Football.
It was 6 seasons after he was first signed that Gleason left an indelible mark on the city he now called home.
Look out, right through! A pick block by Steve Gleason. It is scooped and scored!
The iconic block punt led to the Saints' first touchdown in their first game in the Superdome after Hurricane Katrina devastated the city almost 2 years earlier.
When it happened, of course, we're running around the house screaming because it was Steve, but we didn't know the gravity of the moment until you've been to New Orleans and talked to people about it. It's the moment in history for Saints in New Orleans and the city itself. I've heard people say that they've never heard a sound like that inside the building, hearing those people, the exuberation or whatever the word is to say, like that moment was so pivotal for a city. I mean, so pivotal and so true to what they were as a people and what they'd been through, and that we're back. And so when it happened, it was just like, of course it was Steve. Of course it was Steve.
Gleason retired from the NFL in 2008. It was 3 years later he revealed his diagnosis of ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. And for all that he did for his teams on the field, it's the work with Team Gleason off the field that has carried the most incredible impact. Raising awareness about ALS, working toward an end to the disease, while helping those with neuromuscular diseases and injuries live their lives to the fullest.
It's giving me goosebumps. Look at that, got goosebumps just thinking about Steve and how what's happened to him and how strong a man he is and how great he turned out.
I believe Steve's done more in 6 years with ALS than probably the 50 years before. I mean, he's getting bills signed by President Obama, you know? He challenges ALS, like it's not, you know, this is gonna happen to me, but I'm gonna live with it. And this is how I'm gonna do it, through technology and through, you know, I'm gonna live with it, and that's his mission. He wants to help find a cure, but more importantly, he wants people to live their lives.
Steve Gleason, a life full of leadership with a lasting impact on the Inland Northwest and far beyond.
He doesn't care whether you're an NFL player or you're a young man going to Gonzaga Prep right now. He doesn't care. He just treats you as a human being, and he treats you with kindness. He's just got a really, really, really kind spirit.
He's that guy that has so many different circles of friends that we can all come together and share at the same time and be a part of one group, you know, with Steve. He's a great guy.
And as I'm sure you understand, it's extremely difficult for Steve to travel right now, but he did send us this message. He's with us here in spirit today. I direct your attention back to the video screen.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for this award. It is tremendous to be honored among these incredible individuals. Also, thank you to the Inland Northwest Sports Hall of Fame, the Spokane Sports Commission, and the Spokane Veterans Memorial Arena for creating such a special event for the Spokane area. I was diagnosed with ALS almost 7 years ago. Looking back on myself at the time, I had no idea what I was walking into. It was like I was a rookie, walking into an opponent's stadium, and only hearing the screaming of the crazy and rabid fans. My perspective was narrow. I did not see the entire field of options. My game plan was limited. But, like life, sports and football rely on strategies developed through experience and perspective. Fortunately, my time in high school, at Gonzaga Prep, and at WSU, I was able to develop as a person beyond athletics, or, at least, in parallel with athletics. I was taught perseverance when faced with adversity. Also, I learned to be resilient after defeat. I was taught to think for myself, which disgruntled my parents to say the least. I learned that by giving yourself to others, far more will come to you. I was taught to debate and fellowship with my elders, my teachers, and my friends. Most importantly, I learned to love my neighbor as myself. While I played 8 years in the NFL, where I gained added perspective and advantages, my roots were formed right here, in the Northwest. I say all that because, although ALS has presented a lot of challenges and adversity, I'm very active. I'm involved in meaningful and purpose-filled projects. I'm able to be an involved and a loving father to our son Rivers. I pick him up from school every day. I go to all of his practices. I help put him in bed every night. Much has changed in 6 years. Although I cannot predict the outcome of my life, deep within my soul, I now have a calming sense of certainty. I plan to continue conquering for decades. Thank you again for this great honor, and always remember, no white flags.
And we have a sport coat, a ring, and a picture that commemorates being inducted into the Hall of Fame for all of our inductees, and we'll be sending that to Steve's family in New Orleans, and some of Steve's family is here today. Thank you for being here. Our next inductee is another Washington State Cougar, and ironically another New Orleans Saint, Ruben Mays.
Washington State football program has never been afraid to search far and wide for its recruits. So maybe it's fitting that one of its greatest finds, arguably its greatest, came from a small town in northern Saskatchewan, where a film of Ruben Mays found its way from North Battleford to Pullman, Washington.
And it was probably filmed from the back of a pickup truck because it was the worst film you've ever seen. But the only good thing about it was every time we saw him handle the ball, he'd run whatever, however far he had to go for a touchdown, he'd run it.
It was an unlikely spot to find a future star, but the Cougs couldn't help but follow up. Prolific track athlete, Mays has a special speed, a focus for football, and the intangibles any coach would covet.
He fit the description not only physically, but mentally. He was sharp as a tack and just a delightful young man.
I had serious intention. I had, growing up, when I was 12, I wanted to play in the NFL, and I wanted to play big-time football in the United States, and so I came to Pullman with the intention that I'm going to do whatever it takes to be the best.
Pitch to Mays. Touchdown, Washington State.
Washington State made Mays his only Division I scholarship offer. He came to campus determined to erase any doubt that he belonged.
My mom dropped me off in the stadium. It was on a Saturday, and then the Sunday I was there by myself. I remember sitting in the stadium saying, what am I done? I'm here, you know, is this gonna work for me? And I was pretty scared, actually. And I've been told that by my entire country in Canada that I'm not gonna make it and I'm gonna get lost in the shuffle. And I remember reflecting on that. It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, you know, I'm here and I'm going for it. I don't give a, you know, whatever. I just worked my butt off and did whatever it took. And I just was very focused.
Any questions about how his talent might translate to the Pac-10 were quickly cleared up, and by the time he was a junior, he had blossomed into a top 10 Heisman finalist.
And Mays goes 53 yards all the way.
He rushed for more than 1,600 yards that season, 216 of them came against Stanford.
And from Autzen Stadium here in Eugene, Oregon, it's the Cougars of Washington State against the Oregon Ducks.
But on an October afternoon in Eugene was even more memorable when Ruben set the NCAA single game record, rushing for 357 yards against the Ducks.
It was kind of a rainy day, and we weren't able to pass the football very much because it was raining and it just wasn't working. And for some reason, their linebackers were playing off the ball. And so we run the draw, and I would be getting 10, 12, 5, 15, 18, and then break a couple long ones. And they never seemed to have gotten that.
That was right. The 50, 45 of the 40, Ruben Mays over 300 yards on the afternoon.
The last quarter, the last two times we had the ball, every time we'd snap the ball, you could hear the fans, and they're all going, "Watch the draw." And if you've ever heard 40,000 people say the word draw together, it is the most eerie thing because it's got this weird sound. Whoa, you know that you didn't know, but and then the coach from Oregon was mad as hell because Dick Brooks was his name, and he said my fans knew more what was coming, but my players couldn't stop it. And so he rushes for 350 yards on almost literally the same play.
Mays followed his memorable junior season with another one his senior year. In 1985, he finished his 4 years the Cougars' all-time leading rusher, leaving Pullman with more than 3,500 yards and 2 Pac-10 Offensive Player of the Year awards. His college career paved the way for his childhood dream to finally be fulfilled. In 1986, the New Orleans Saints drafted him in the 3rd round, where he beat higher-profile athletes with his perseverance and grit.
I was brought in with a number of players, a new coaching staff, and Dalton Hilliard was also running back, drafted in the 2nd round. I remember they asked me when I got there, you know, you're from the Pac-10, right? And we got Dalton Hilliard from the SEC, and what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to start here. You know, I'm playing.
Mays rushed for more than 1,300 yards his first season. He was the NFL Rookie of the Year and an All-Pro, too. An amazing start to a pro career that eventually spanned 5 seasons in New Orleans and 2 more in Seattle.
That was the epitome of my athletic career, was always kind of on the edge, but, you know, working through it and persevering.
Recently, Ruben became a U.S. citizen, and today he still lives in the inland Northwest. He is more than 800 miles from where he was born, but humbled to be honored by the place he considers home.
This is where I live, and this is where I work, and this is where I've raised my family and been married to my wife, you know, for over almost 30 years now. That, to me, means a lot, and so to be named to this Hall of Fame is a really great honor for me.
For the touchdown, and Ruben Mays.
There is no Hall of Fame that wouldn't be better for having Ruben Mays in it. He did bring great things to this Inland Empire. Ruben Mays brought attention here, he brought dignity here, he brought all the things that you want a young person in college presenting and representing your area to do.
Well, this is quite an honor. My wife, Marie, wants to share that she wanted to be here. She's a professor at WSU and also has an event tonight, so she couldn't be here. After I broke the record at Oregon, we were boyfriend-girlfriend, and she had a big sign she put on Bowler Gym. She's embarrassed by it today. It says, "You're my lucky star." And so I bring that up every once in a while to her, and she says, well, man, you got to stop bringing that up, Ruben. But we've been married for almost 30 years now, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that here later in my talk, in my presentation today. I have so many people to be thankful for. Like you heard, I was raised in a small farming community in North Battleford, Saskatchewan, a little smaller than Colfax. And you know, I had a real vision to play in the NFL, and my parents were divorced when I was 15, and that was my way of expressing myself and doing something. And Hugh Campbell's here tonight, and you'll have to bear with me, pretty emotional for me, but on a favor, Hugh Campbell got me to Washington State University. And that encompasses really what it's all about, doesn't it? Hugh Campbell talked to Jim Walden. I fly down this African-Canadian guy, you know, with a big igloo jacket on, and I have breakfast with Coach Walden, and he says, we're going to give you a scholarship. And I called my dad, and I said, that'd be fantastic. And I'm so grateful for Coach Walden for that opportunity. And, you know, and I didn't think I was going to get emotional, but it's really interesting when you think back to the opportunities that you have, and just on a favor and a scholarship. And I said, remember sitting in the stands on a Saturday afternoon, my mom was terrified. You know, literally the whole entire country of Canada had forums that were talking about me not going to the United States to get lost in the shuffle and all that sort of thing. And I said, you know, I've got an opportunity to hone my skills and be the best, and I worked really hard. And so the one thing I wanted to share, I got 5 things I want to share with you tonight. One is you have to have a bold vision. And I had a bold vision. And I was really fortunate, and I met my wife Marie there along the way, and I had a chance to go into pros. You know, work hard, adversity, face your fears. I remember playing against the Chicago Bears and against Mike Singletary. He's a friend of mine, and being scared to death in a 4th and 1, and I jump over the pile and get a first down, and you know, many moments like that. But I was always pretty frightened about some of these opportunities, but you embrace those opportunities. But you know, the most important one is the relationships, and that's what I've learned the most in my 54 years of life. Is I have 2 wonderful boys. Logan went on to get a finance degree at Cal Poly. He was a student athlete, 2 years at Washington State University and transferred down to Cal Poly, played 2 years down there. He's now very successful in California, managing hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's very bright, gets all his brains from his mom. And Kellen, who's going to be a senior at WSU and going to the Peace Corps and wants to be in healthcare. And so I've been blessed. I've been so blessed. But you know, the bottom line is relationships. And so I tell you that I had this bold vision. I was climbing this mountain in All-American and MVP in the Pac-10 and All-Pro and Rookie of the Year and all these things. But then I realized, you know, I was on the wrong mountain in 1990, and I gave my life to Christ during that time. And I realized then that it's all about people. So it wasn't like so much I was this selfish guy, but I realized that there's a deeper meaning to life. And so I'm so grateful that for Hugh Campbell and for Coach Walden and for all the coaches, for Gary Gagnon and for my coaches in the NFL, for Marie and for Logan and Kellen, and for professors. I ended up getting an MBA, and for 23 years in development and leadership. And to this day today, I say it's about relationships with people. People are important. And so I'm grateful to the commission, I'm grateful to the selection committee, and I'm grateful for all of you for allowing me to have a dream and to pursue that dream, to be scared to death and to work hard and get knocked down and get back up. And in the end, it's even better. It's even better because it's about people and relationships and love. So thank you so very much for the opportunity to lay roots in this community, in farming community, which it's part of who I am. I get to hang out with farmers every single day, and I love it. We had cattle growing up and all that stuff, and that's wonderful. And this is my home. This is my home. So thank you very much for all that you do.
Ruben, thank you. And that's not the first time I've heard someone get choked up when they're talking to or about Jim Walden. It is the first time I've seen somebody happy when it happens, though. Our next inductee comes from North Idaho, Allie Neiman.
In a town steeped in tradition with tales of athletic success, this is the story of a coach's kid that resonates as loud as any in Sandpoint, Idaho.
Here comes Allie Neiman with the kill. Oh, Neiman!
This is where Allie Neiman first learned to love the sports she was destined to dominate.
I mean, the person that I looked up to and that taught me a lot about basketball was my dad, because he was a player. He was our coach in junior high at Sandpoint, and then when I was playing in high school, he was the assistant varsity coach. Him and I spent a lot of time together in the gym.
Oh, I can remember going to the school on Sunday mornings or Saturday afternoons, and there's Jim's car and Jim and Allie in the gym shooting and working on stuff. So, I mean, she's always had a really strong work ethic.
Nice move.
The combination of countless hours of work and a mental makeup tailor-made for competition was a fitting foundation for what was to come.
Neiman, yes!
A young girl who excelled in several sports first started to gain notoriety on the basketball floor.
So I actually got to go that summer between 6th and 7th grade to a big national AAU, like Junior Olympic tournament, and play against girls from all over the country. So kind of then I was kind of thinking like, man, this is, I love this. This is something I think I could do.
It was that national exposure that made the basketball world take notice. Michigan State sent her a recruiting letter before she finished the 7th grade. But there was so much more to come before any college was even considered.
Allie Neiman was as good a high school basketball player as I've ever seen. I think that people probably didn't give her enough credit for being such an exceptional volleyball player as well.
There goes for you, off the base of 22 Vicky Smith-Neiman, 13-9 Bulldogs.
I think she was was overshadowed by her basketball career, but she was clearly a Division I high-level athlete in both sports.
In her 4 years at Sandpoint High School, Allie rewrote the record books. She was first-team All-State 4 times in volleyball, helping the Bulldogs to 2 state titles and 2 runners-up. She earned first-team All-State honors 3 times on the basketball court, setting 19 school records, all while earning USA Today All-America honors.
She was a really, really good role model for all the kids in our area. To be as exceptional as she was as an athlete and as successful as she was, and to be as humble as she was, really showed a lot to our kids and helped us perpetuate our program.
It's no wonder colleges all over America were in hot pursuit. In the end, her loyalty to home and a chance to play both sports made the decision much less difficult.
I wanted to go to a place where I felt comfortable and I felt like I belonged. When I went on my recruiting trip to Idaho, it just felt like, oh, this is where I should be.
Predictably, her high levels of success continued in Moscow. As a redshirt, she made Big West all-freshman in volleyball before the logistics of 2 sports became too much, so she continued with basketball only and earned first-team all-conference honors all 4 seasons. She finished her career as the Vandals' all-time scoring leader and was the only player ever to amass 2,000 points and 1,000 rebounds, earning a spot in the school's Hall of Fame.
Her best qualities aren't what she's good at on the floor. It's what she's good at in life. The all-time points, yeah, that's pretty sweet. But the life skills, unbelievable. I'm really proud of you, Allie.
Now, a mom of 2 and a counselor at Timberlake Junior High, Allie is humbled by the honor her career has afforded her today.
That got Neiman for 3, count it.
I looked at the list of everybody that's in the Hall of Fame, and it's not a very long list, really. And so just to be included with all those people, it's such an honor. And there's not very many females in it, so to be one of those, it's pretty amazing.
Thank you. So I wanted to start off by thanking the Inland Northwest Sports Hall of Fame and the Spokane Sports Commission for this amazing honor. I feel truly blessed to be included in this group with such phenomenal individuals. And I want to thank all of my teammates and coaches that I had throughout all of my years of playing. They were awesome, great people, and I had such great experience playing. And I want to thank my family for being like so incredibly supportive of me throughout my career. My dad, Jim, my mom, Wendy, and my brother, Paul, who are all here tonight. You guys are the best, and I couldn't have done it without you. And I would just like to give a special thanks to my dad. He was my coach, like ever since I was a little girl all the way up through high school. And we had keys to our high school gym, which was great. And, I asked him so many times, hey, Dad, can we go to the gym? And I literally never remember him saying no. He was always willing to go and help me. And so that's really important to me. And I'd like to thank my amazing husband, Nick, who's here, and also our children, Hudson and Brooklyn. They're 2 and 4, so they're at home with the babysitter. And they weren't around during my playing days, but they're my everything now. And I just love you guys tons. And I just wanted to say, growing up in Sandpoint, my roots are here in the Northwest, and I loved growing up in Sandpoint. And when I was in high school, I had the opportunity to basically go to any college that I wanted. And I am so happy with my choice to play at University of Idaho and to stay in this area. My family got to come and watch me play, which was amazing. And as I look back on my career, the things that I cherish most are all the people that I got to know and all the people that I got to come in contact with along the way. And like Ruben was talking, the relationships are so important. And, as I was getting ready for the Hall of Fame, I was kind of reminiscing a little bit about my career. And that's the thing that just stuck in my mind was the people. And some of the most important people in my life I got to meet through sports. And, sports taught me so much, like work ethic, perseverance, being a part of a team, getting along with all types of people. I mean, the list could go on and on and on, but I really feel that playing sports really has shaped me into the person that I am today. And I feel very fortunate to have had the career I had, and I feel so blessed to have the life that I have now. And in closing, I would just like to leave you with 2 important words that are near and dear to my heart, and that's go Vandals.
Allie, congratulations. Our next inductee is volleyball coach Pam Parks.
It is always something special when a player, a coach, or an administrator leaves a lasting mark in the world of sports. To find someone who's done it in all of those levels is nothing short of remarkable. Such is the case for Pam Parks, whose impact on the Inland Northwest is almost immeasurable.
Every step along the way when she was a player, she made other players better. When she coached young kids, she made not only the kids better, but the parents better as well. What I really think is even more phenomenal is show me anybody that she works with and any other administrators or other coaches. You're not going to find anybody that isn't going to say how much integrity this woman has and how strong of a person she is. She leads all the way.
Pam Parks started in Jefferson, Oregon, and eventually blossomed in small-town Washington. It was her junior year when her family moved to Oakdale. There she found opportunity to pursue her passion, long before it was commonplace.
You know, I walked into the gym and they had sports for women, and so I walked right into badminton. I was able to do volleyball and basketball and actually some track. Oakesdale was just a great gift.
A fierce competitor on all fronts, her love for volleyball led her to the next level. Eastern Washington was a perfect fit to play collegiately and lay the foundation for her career to come.
I ended up going to Eastern Washington because I knew they were so good in education. In the old days, most coaches were teachers. Today, most coaches are coaches, professional coaches, businessmen and women, you know, whatever, but they don't have necessarily the teaching background that I had. I came to Eastern and it's meant everything, you know, to me.
After graduation, her leadership as a setter made the next step seamless when she became an assistant coach for her alma mater. 2 years later, she was named head coach, a title tailored for her personality.
What really I think makes her special is that her heart is bigger than on the inside than she ever shows on the outside. She believes in each and every player. She never loses confidence in people because she doesn't allow it to happen. She doesn't allow you to lose confidence in yourself.
After 3 years at Eastern, she took over the program at Sandpoint High School. There she started a string of success that resonated to this day. In 1980, the Bulldogs won the state title, the first in any sport for that school. From there, she moved back to the collegiate ranks, spending 1 season at Montana State before the path eventually led back to Cheney. All told, her career included more than 300 wins. She is one of just 5 coaches to do that in the Big Sky Conference, and she will forever be the first coach at Eastern in any sport to win the Big Sky title when her team did that in 1989.
Our theme that year was no excuses. They probably led me more than I led them. If they sensed maybe I was a little bit nervous or hesitant, they'd just go, "We got it, coach, we got it." And these are freshmen saying that. And it's like, okay, well, we got it then. And we just had a tremendous year. It's all about the athletes you coach. The reason I was successful is that I had some incredibly good athletes, and I was fortunate enough to get them.
College athletes were only a portion of the players she helped shape. She started Spokane's first club program, a group that grew from 12 players to more than 3,000. Leadership seems to be ingrained in her DNA. The last 19 years, it's been as Associate Athletic Director for EWU. Now, as her career comes to a close, it's clear the impact she's had on our community reaches far and wide.
That recognition of other people seeing her for who she is doesn't surprise me. I see it. I know it. We all do. But it's the ones that don't really come to the forefront and ask for it or expect it are usually the ones that are not noticed as much. So for her to get this award is, in my mind, more special.
I'm just so lucky to have had the life I've had and the job I've had. Good grief. And whoever thought it would have happened, like I said, growing up when I did. All of the little pieces that fell into place have just been pretty amazing. And when you go to work, you love your job, and you know, how many people can say that?
Excuse me, am I mistaken or did I just die? That video was so moving, I thought I might be in the wrong place. I wanted to thank Jordan Caskey for this wonderful video. He did a tremendous job, and thank you, Irene, for the narration. And also, thanks to Andrea Zaman, who did a lot of the speaking. I appreciate it. I'm truly honored to be recognized by the Inland Northwest Hall of Fame Committee and the Spokane Sports Commission for this award. In particular, Jody Kaler and Sammy Reagan for the outstanding job that they do and that they did for me personally and all the other inductees. I also wanted to congratulate my fellow honorees. I'm humbled to be with all of you in this induction class. When I was notified of my selection as a coach and contributor to sport, I thought, wow, I've come a long way from my childhood home at 4th and Havana in Spokane. For young women today, all things are possible through sports, competition, scholarships, and professional careers. For me, at my young age, I was very fortunate to be able to even compete in sports, let alone ultimately having a career as a coach and an athletics administrator. And now for some of my stories and many thank yous. To my PE teacher, Peggy Wolfenbarger, what a name, in Oregon, who drove us in her car to compete with the nearby Chemawa Indian School and the Oregon School of the Deaf, when nobody did that. To Oakdale High School, who had interscholastic competition for women in 1968, 4 years before Title IX. No cheerleading for me. And to Al Jacobson and Sandpoint High School for hiring me and letting me coach in one of the most outstanding high school venues at that time. The experience was electric. For Olympic coach Bill Neville, then the recreation director at the Spokane Downtown YMCA, who introduced several of us to the highest level of volleyball. Without him, my life path to coaching may have never happened, and it certainly wouldn't have ended at the Division I NCAA level. Thanks to all of you who were my assistant coaches, most of which no longer have rotator cuffs from hitting 1 million volleyballs. When you coach as long as I have, I cannot list them all, but I will give a shout out to a few. Carrie, Lee, Roger, Irene, Todd, Jimmy, Mike, and Wade. You all held me up on your shoulders so I could succeed, and I thank you. No coach gets anywhere, as I said on the video, without their athletes. Would all of you in attendance please stand and be recognized? I have been blessed to coach so many unbelievable women. You taught me more than I ever taught you, that's for sure. You took every difficult drill and challenge and applied it to your lives as parents and professionals. I will be forever grateful to have had a modicum of influence in your lives. I don't miss driving thousands of miles or the recruiting wars, but I will forever, as Reuben May said, miss the relationships that I had with all of you. And also, I will now publicly apologize for making many of you play games on years of flights and road trips. All my love. To my friends, thank you to many of you for coming today to share this experience with me. I'm sorry that I cannot personally introduce you all because I love you dearly. I do need to single out one individual, though, that I met while I was coaching at Sandpoint High School. Jimmy Brisbois was the young man who always managed to be peppering in the gym before practice and was a volleyball junkie. He followed me to Bozeman and to EWU and was a huge factor as an assistant coach. He has been in Seattle ever since and continues to play volleyball to this day. He was the best setter, sorry Kim, that I've ever coached and an even better friend. To all the club parents who entrusted their daughters to me, special recognition must be given to Dave Self from Sandpoint. though no longer with us, made our Sandpoint Ohana Volleyball Club possible and is greatly missed. To Russ Pogue from Cutting Edge and the Pacific Northwest Qualifier, and it almost goes without saying, John Heimbigner from Prime Cut Volleyball Club and several other committees on which we serve. Thank you all. Now to my families, my Sports Commission family. I have served with many of you for 17 plus years, and it's been a pure pleasure. Thanks for your support, your collaboration, and your passion. To my EWU family, I so appreciate many of you attending today. Some of you I've known for months, and most of you for many years. Who could ask for a better job, a better university, and better people to work with? No one. And now I have to say, go Eagles. And to my siblings, you are why I became an educator and a coach. My parents, with me in spirit, Gene and Earl Parks, were from little towns in North Idaho, married during the war, both extremely intelligent people who were thrust into different paths in life because they chose to have 4 kids. My dad had farming roots, and my mother worked a variety of jobs most of her life. She was a sports junkie, and although she was never able to play sports herself, she always felt like she knew everything about every sport out there. I wonder where I got that. My sister Sandy was my second mother, my protector, and the best athlete by far in the family. My oldest brother, Doug, who left home at 17 and entered the Navy, showed me intensity and conviction. And then there was my brother, Marty. Dr. Parks to you. He tortured me immersively growing up, and it was surviving him that helped me become the determined coach that I was. In all seriousness, the traits they possess and the knowledge they passed on to me over the years was invaluable. The fact that they have all traveled here to be with me today makes it extra special. My love. To the rest of my family, my nieces, nephews, in-laws, outlaws, great-nieces, and nephews, you've always been there for me, and it means more than words can say. I love you. Lastly, to my partner in this crazy life and world of coaching, a Hall of Famer in her own right, Irene Matlock. Together for over 40 years, we have helped to develop and grow the sport of volleyball in this region, both in club and collegiately. We challenge each other to be better coaches. We challenged each other to be better coaches every step of the way. I cannot imagine where my journey would have been without you. Wherever you are, my most humble thanks. In closing, I must say that the hospital that I was born in here in Spokane, St. Luke's, no longer exists. Every house I lived in as a youth in Spokane has been torn down. The Alcott grade school I attended is now a resource center. The EWU Savages, gone. Now with this cubicle here, I really hope this arena is on solid ground. Thank you for this honor.
Take the ring, yeah. It's surviving the wind so far, Pam, so I think we're okay. Congratulations. Our next inductee is a friend and a colleague, Dennis Patchen.
Spokane Chiefs got a very big win last night.
I was going to school to be a history teacher and a high school coach. And that's what I was going to college for. And I took a class, Introduction to Broadcasting. I liked the class. So I took another class, I liked it. I took another class, and it was like, this looks like it's fun. I had a passion for it, I guess. A passion I didn't know I had. Once the door was open, though, I ran through it.
Last Saturday, the regular high school football season came to a close, and this week
I got a job in Missoula. I stayed 2 years in Missoula. Came to Spokane. My plan was to be here for 5 years, and I was leaving. The longer I stayed, the more we were doing, and in fact, at our place for a long time, we were covering more things, doing more things than the stations in Seattle and Portland.
We did what we had to do and work the hours we had to work to get the job done. And that was certainly an aspect that Dennis brought to what we did.
Rick and Dennis got really frustrated because we could get out to so many more games than we had time to show the video of.
Friday Night Sports Extra was born out of State B tournament time.
And I think there may have been a little bit of defiance involved in starting this show, which is perfect for Dennis.
We got yelled at by a news director who basically said, you didn't tell the news department that the State B tournament was here and how important it was. And he comes back and goes, you better come up with an idea on how you're going to cover this tournament better. We decided, you know what, screw that guy. We'll just show highlights of every game.
I kind of had a rundown written out on a little sheet of paper, just following as we went along, and we got done and we went, damn, that was pretty good.
We sat down with Bud, said, hey, let's do this for football.
It was just such a cool opportunity to go out into these small communities that don't get coverage.
Nobody on the West Coast was doing a high school specific football show. So we did it. We had a blast.
It was almost like, I'll show you we can cover more games. And so he just covered all of them because that's Dennis. He just does more than you need to do.
Part of the job is to cover the stories that people want to see. And if we've got time to air those stories, then you need to go out and cover them. But I guess that's my dad in me saying, you do the job until it's finished.
Hey, if you don't cheer, we're going to make you run.
How can you describe Dennis?
Loud.
He's got this big personality.
He doesn't have to say a word to be loud. Now, when he does say a word, it's going to be loud, okay?
Hey, Austin, go pound sand, huh?
He's just sitting there with one of his Hawaiian shirts. It's loud.
He found his niche, and he's filled it so well and done it in a way that is unique that only Dennis Patchen could do.
Some days you're going to be cheering me. Other days you'll be reaching for your email, your phone, and probably your car keys just to drive down here and give me a piece of your mind.
I'm not going to lie to you. And if you don't like the message that I'm giving you, then it's probably you need to either go somewhere else or change the channel or change the dial, because what you see is what you get.
And we've said that they haven't won anything yet. Well, you're right.
Whether he's sitting on the TV news set delivering a 4.5-minute sportscast, whether he's on the radio with me.
You're never going to see another game like this again.
Whether he's on the radio broadcasting a Gonzaga game or an Idaho football game, this is a regular guy who's just telling you what's going on.
That, I think, is one of the things that's endeared him to everyone because he has been himself for as long as he has.
I'm telling you what, Rick.
My thought is he's the face of Spokane television sports.
Welcome to another Sunday night of Cougar basketball.
I mean, there's really not a lot of teams he has not been attached to at some point.
I mean, he's immersed himself to the point where he is not observing the fabric, he's in the fabric.
The one thing that still bothers me is Dennis did a great job doing play-by-play when Gonzaga basketball made its jump.
It kind of makes you take a retrospect look back and you go, yeah, that is what I've done. That is what my legacy is. But I can't get past just being at all the cool things that I got to be at.
You don't do an Inland Northwest Sports Hall of Fame and at some point don't have a DP in there.
To have the longevity that Dennis has had and to be honored the way he is, it's fantastic, and I'm very happy for him.
It's kind of hard for me to look at like the people that are going to go in, like Steve Gleason and Reuben Mays and Pam Parks and Allie Neiman, and go, I'm the Sesame Street song. Which one of these does not belong with the other?
To see a guy that knows what this means get told in front of his peers and to have them cheer for him was really cool. To see his face and the humbleness that it brought out in him. He's not an emotional guy as far as showing his emotions. It was hard for him that day to not.
Again, thank you.
And as you'll notice when Dennis gets up here from looking at the video, he did get his hair cut for this.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? First of all, I want to just tell you, I got some tips on my induction speech from Bobby Brett. For those of you who were here 4 years ago, he's still going. I did not follow any of those. Yeah, I know. Thank you. First of all, thank you to the committee. Thank you to the Spokane Sports Commission for this humbling honor. Before I went up in the hallway and looked at not necessarily all the great coaches and athletes, I looked at the broadcasters who were in our Hall of Fame. Bob Robertson, Bob Curtis, Dick Wright, Ed Sharman, Herb Hunter. That is truly an honor to be with those pioneers of my business. I would like to say congratulations to my fellow inductees, people that I will always be connected to because they went into the Hall of Fame the same time that I did. Reuben Mays, who ran for officially 1,000,000 miles in Eugene that day. I was there. I was on the sidelines. I felt like I was watching tennis. There goes Reuben. There goes Reuben. There goes Reuben. To Steve Gleason, who I marveled at while hitting the longest home run I have ever seen a high school player hit. And then on a spring day in Pullman, covering a spring scrimmage, saw him play football for Mike Price, run into the locker room, tear off his jersey, put his baseball uniform on, and sprint to the baseball field to play baseball. To Allie Neiman, who I watched for years playing high school basketball, volleyball, and then college volleyball and basketball, and marveled at the talents that she did. Truly one of the greatest I have ever seen. To Pam Parks, who was a pioneer in women's sports. A lot of people don't know that about Pam because she doesn't like to talk about it. Well, she should. She also, at Eastern Washington, had fine dining results with her volleyball team on a brown bag budget. I never got to see Denny Spurlock play, but you know what? We'd have had a lot of fun with him on Friday Night Sports Extra. To Sister Madonna and to Jay Rydell, congratulations on your amazing accomplishments and what you have meant to our community here. I came here, as I said, in February of 1984, but I had already been covering Spokane and the people of Spokane because I sat at home every midnight watching television sports. We got the Spokane stations there, trying to figure out how to get here, how to become part of this community, trying to figure out how Spokane was my next stop. The funny thing, though, you know what? I really wanted to work at Krem. But they had no interest in me. Returned my calls, nothing. So I struck up a partnership with Bud Namick as KXOY to trade video, and that was the start of a working relationship, but it was the start of so much more. Bud must have saw what he saw. He must have liked. Called me, offered me a job, and I took it before he could say, well, on second thought. My plan was to stay here 5 years and move up. But just like trying to get that job at Krem, that didn't pan out either. And I'm glad both never did. You heard the story about the birth of Friday Night Sports Extra. It's true. It came out of us getting in trouble for someone else's mistake. You heard the PG version of that story. I'm not going to tell you the other story after we left that meeting. I'm glad whoever that moron was who told us that we screwed up because of what we did. For me, this day, though, is really about thanking those who helped me receive this honor. Thank you to my mom and dad, Gene and Barbara Patchen, who allowed me to be a sports nut kid. From reading the backs of baseball and football cards when I should have been reading books, to let me sneak a radio to my bed, listening to Rush Hodges, Lon Simmons, and Bill King call games. After almost 34 years at KXOY, there are plenty of people to thank. 2 general managers I worked for, Steve Hurling and Teddy Gibbon. Thank you to the 14 news directors that I worked for. We had a lot. Jim Frandon to Steve Johnson, from Robin Briley to Don Bayman, to Leona Wood to Jerry Post, and most of the rest. None of those listed were the boss that made us come up with Friday Night Sports Extra. To the hundreds of anchors, reporters, producers, photographers, and all the rest of the people at KXLY, thanks for being part of this today. To my bosses in radio the last few years, Roger Nelson, Brian Paul, and Terry Garris, thanks for letting me be me on the radio. Many of the people that I worked with on the radio, and I've been doing radio in this town off and on for 25 years, talking sports, are guys that I worked with in TV, and I'll thank them later. But two people I want to thank specifically who had nothing to do with TV. Julie Scott was one. She was my wife's favorite co-host because after I did shows with Julie, I had nothing to argue when I got home. And Steve Pry, the wingman, who's here today. Steve, thank you for being here. It means a lot to see you here. I'd like to thank the men and women who worked in the other TV sports departments here in town in the 3.5 decades. People like Dan Kleckner and Steve Fimmel, Greg Heister, John Fritz, Sam Adams, and many more at KHQ. At KREM, there are way too many to list because they kept having new sports directors every 2 years. Didn't work out for them either, did it? But Todd Pickett, Tom Hudson, Darnay Tripp are just a few of those. All nice people, but I will be honest with you, I hated every one of them. You know why? You're laughing. I'm not. I really hated them because they were the competition. I wanted to win. We wanted to win. We wanted to win bad. To the men and women of our TV sports department, I have actually worked with less people in the sports department than I have worked with news directors. That's amazing. Todd Lewis, who you might see on the Golf Channel now. Paul Otto, Mike Boyle, who will be sitting up there tomorrow night calling a Chiefs game. Derek Agnew, Allison Leap, Kayla Anderson, Ben Kaplan, Derek Dice, Tom Giles, Will Sherritt, Sarah Wheeler, and Alyssa Charleston. Thank you for being great teammates. It meant a lot. There are 3 others that I will mention, but I'll talk about them later. I'd like to thank the people who trusted me with a microphone on a radio or a television. Can you imagine me getting the opportunity to talk about a team that's good or bad? The late Dan Fitzgerald, who hired me twice, once to do television work for Gonzaga, once to do radio work. To Bill Chaves at Eastern, and Rob Spear at Idaho, and Jim Sturk and Bill Moose at Washington State, and Bobby Brett with the Spokane Chiefs, and Brady Nelson of the Spokane Shock. I've had the privilege and the honor to be calling or talking about all of those on their broadcast. I want to thank all the hundreds of coaches and the thousands of athletes who I was privileged to cover. I walked around the hall today. There are 149 people in the Hall of Fame, not including me. 80 of those people I either saw play, coach, or had a discussion with about sports. Thank you for letting me tell your story every night. You don't know how much that means to me. For me to be able to stand here today meant I was at a lot of games and events on nights and weekends. That meant I missed time with my family, and I want to thank them for their understanding. To my 3 children, Christopher, Matthew, and Lauren, thanks for letting Dad miss out on some of those. Lauren and Matt are right here. Thank you for being here today. It means a lot to me. Our oldest son, Christopher, is not here. He's in Santa Rosa with a crew helping fight fires. We miss him, and we think of him often. I always told my kids there were good things about your dad being on TV, and there are bad things about being your dad on TV. One of the bad things was the question. My kids referred to it when they went to a new school or met new friends or went for a job interview. The question was, are you related? They hated that. Well, you know what, kids? This is one of the good things. The best thing I ever did was to fool a woman almost 40 years ago to think spending the rest of her life was a good thing with me. At least that plan worked out. I went to Rose Bowls and Super Bowls, Memorial Cups, and literally dozens of NCAA tournaments. She went to dirty diapers, runny noses, and 101 degree temperatures. There was no way I'd be standing here if it wasn't for you. Dorothy, I love you. Thank you for being by my side all these years. I'm just thinking about Reuben almost crying. That's what makes me emotional right now. I had 2 brothers growing up. I had 3 brothers at KXLY. That guy right there, okay? He's the one who brought me to Spokane. If you like me, you're welcome. If you don't, blame him. He hired us, he hired both Rick and I, and turned us loose to know what we needed to do and what we wanted to do. Thank you, Bud. I'll never be able to pay you back for the opportunity to work for you in what was a hell of a run. To Rick Lukens, he's here today. I don't know where he is. He's probably hiding. He's back up getting a free beer. I I know there were some years that Rick and I spent more time together than we did with our wives and our kids, and that's the truth. From the NCAA tournament trips, to Cougar football Saturdays, to Friday night sports extra, to all the other things we did together. Rick, I'm glad that I spent that time with you. And to Keith Oso. He's Bud, Rick, and my kid, all right? He's running the shop now. He's in charge. We turned the store over to him when we got old and couldn't be on TV anymore. We actually raised him from a puppy, so we taught him well. He's actually someone we covered on Friday Night Sports Extra. I saw something in him in his second day of his internship. We don't talk about the first day of his internship much. I felt that he was the guy that kept what Bud, Rick, and Dennis started going. He's taken the baton, he's kept the good things and made the department even better than we were there. Thank you for not forgetting us, Keith Oso. In closing, I just want to say thank you to all the viewers and the listeners, because I can't think of another community that this possibly would ever played out the way it did. There was a little bit of me in that cubicle up in the concourse, but there will always be a lot of Spokane in me. Thank you.
Dennis, congratulations. Our next inductee from North Central High School and Whitworth University, Denny Spurlock.
It is a special set of circumstances when an athlete's endeavors stand up to the test of time. Such is the case for the late Denny Spurlock, whose multi-sport success still resonates more than 50 years since he was first earning his teammates' respect.
He had the personality, the composure, the patience, the attitude, the selflessness, all of that, and he was good. It's easier to be good but not have all the rest of that stuff. And he made others better. Truly, a quarterback that makes other people better is a rarity.
Sounds trite and old-fashioned, but I always say when you Google Denny in this day and age, it takes you back to a 1950s, 60s encyclopedia and takes you to the word class, and there's a picture of Denny.
It was at North Central High School Spurlock first made his mark on Spokane's sports landscape in the 1950s. A star on the football field and the basketball court, he was a two-time All-City selection in both sports.
Very competitive. He set the city scoring record as a senior, averaged over 17 points a game, and had he not been unselfish as he was, he could have scored well over 20 plus points a game. Good shooter, very good athlete, but biggest thing about him, he was a very, very good person.
Those attributes were tailor-made for his talents at quarterback, too. As a senior, he led NC to the city championship and the East to a win in the All-State game. No surprise, Whitworth took notice, and Spurlock stayed in Spokane to play both sports for his hometown Pirates. His quiet, even-keeled approach made his transition to college what you might expect, a rousing success.
He had the intangibles, number one. Number two, he was a quarterback who could anticipate, and that's something most quarterbacks can't do and will never learn. So our connection was, I would tell him where I'm going to be, or he would tell me where I should be, and then the ball would already be there when I got there. And you can't stop that.
In 1961, Spurlock's 27 touchdowns were the most ever in college football at any level.
His passes almost had handles on them. They were that easy to catch.
All told, his Whitworth career included almost 5,500 yards passing and 65 touchdowns, also collegiate records. He led the Pirates to 2 conference championships, earning All-Conference, All-Western, and All-America honors, all while starting for the basketball team too. And as special as all of those accolades are, maybe the one that says the most is Whitworth's commitment to remember him. The Dennis Spurlock Memorial Award is given each year to the Pirates athlete that best exhibits athletic ability combined with modesty, poise, humility, and leadership.
The dignity under which he competed, the inspiration, I guess you'd say, by the example that he set, was certainly deserving of an award.
And so here, some 6 decades later, an honor for all of his endeavors.
It's about time. I mean, I cannot believe how he could have not been in here 25 years ago or whenever you're eligible. I mean, needless to say, you've read all the stuff about him, you know, high school and college. How many guys have done that? There's not that many. It's everything. Absolutely everything to me. I mean, he was my best friend. I wish he were still here. He isn't, but we can at least do this for him.
And accepting on behalf of Denny and the Spurlock family, Bill Sperling.
Thanks, Bud. I want to first of all recognize Sammy Reagan again. She promised all of us that if we lost our composure, it would not be counted against our time. So thanks, Sammy. Paige, it is doubtful that your father would have passed this to me, knowing the possibility of me dropping it, even with handles on it, as John said. In any event, I am honored to be speaking on behalf of my close friend, Denny, and the family. Denny had very little to say, so if he were here, his speech would be brief, somewhat like, I'm grateful and honored. Thank you very much. That's not to say that Denny wouldn't be proud, humbled, and embarrassed with the attention. In fact, Denny would immediately shine the light on his coaches, such as Sam Adams #1, by the way, at Whitworth, and Dave Holmes at North Central, as well as his teammates. Several of his football teammates had full scholarships at Division I schools, then transferred to Whitworth. Not because they couldn't play at that level, they just chose to play for Sam. Many were either drafted or had tryouts at the next level, and some spent time on pro rosters. Thanks to all of you being present today. Would all of you who had played with Denny, would you please stand? I know there are a bunch of you out there. Stand up, John. Come on, where are you guys? Ray Washburn, didn't you play with that guy? A special acknowledgement to Scott McQuilkin, Vice President for Institutional Advancement at Whitworth, his staff, and the Whitworth Athletic Department for their support. Thanks, Scott. You know, we've heard all about the athletic attributes, but I want to focus on who Denny was as a person. Denny was a friend. It was at such a level that it was unconditional. He was a role model with his integrity and quiet leadership. Short on words, but always pulling the string, not pushing it. Dwight Eisenhower said, if you pull the string, it'll follow you wherever you go. We followed Denny. It has been said that most great leaders are ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances. Believe me when I say that leading that group of guys at Whitworth qualified as extraordinary. How does a humble quiet, unassuming guy become the leader of a bunch of alpha males? You might ask that question. Well, it was simply by his actions on the field of play. I'd like to take just a few moments to introduce the family. And after all of them are standing, we can show our appreciation. Let's start with Denny's son, Dennis Jr., and his wife, Lynn. Denny and Lynn, would you stand, please? Stay standing while we get everybody up. Their daughter, Madison, a sophomore at Montana State, and their daughter, Riley, a senior at Lewis and Clark High School, are unable to attend. And now, Denny's daughter, Paige, and her husband, Steve Leifer, and their daughter, Morgan, a senior at Whitworth, majoring in elementary education. Now, Paige and Steve's son, Bo, where are you, Bo? You're back there somewhere, okay, who is a senior at Coeur d'Alene High School, currently playing wide receiver for the Vikings. Now, if you want to know what Denny looked like as a senior at North Central High School, just check that guy out. He is a chip. As a side note, since the 4 grandchildren were young, from youth sports to college, they have each worn number 11 in honor of their Grandpa Denny. And thanks to all of you. In closing, I'd like you to remember Denny by his leadership, his quiet spirit, loyalty to his friends, and his love of family. I can assure you that he would be honored, Ray Washburn, to be inducted into the same Hall of Fame that you are in. He would be pleased. It's an honor and it's a privilege to represent Denny on this momentous occasion. Thanks again to the family.
Bill, thank you very much. Just one little bit of business for all of the inductees. We'd ask that you come up to the front of the stage and the podium. We'll get a group picture. Chris Anderson would like to do that for the Spokane Sports Commission. My congratulations to all of our honorees today, and thank you so much for being here to support them. And a reminder that we have a reception that follows. We invite you upstairs for some food and beverage and a chance to see all of the new cubicles. And we've done something different this year. Instead of all of the inductees going into one specific area, the cubicles are spread out, which should make it a little easier for everybody to get a chance to look at them. You will find some easels similar to what we see here with the picture near the cubicle for that person, so you can check that out when you head upstairs. Again, thank you so much for being here and for your support of the Inland Northwest Sports Hall of Fame. We will do this again in 2 years, and we'll hope that we see you here. And again, please enjoy the reception that follows. If you need an elevator, there is an elevator. If you go, pretend you just skated off the ice and you've got the lead at the end of the second period, go through these doors and a little bit to the right, and there's an elevator that will get you upstairs. If not, you can walk to the left and up the stairs and into the reception area. Again, congratulations to all our honorees, and thank you so much for being here today to help support them.